Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered how you forge a character capable of literally changing the course of human history? Well, today we're skipping the long intros and diving directly into an incredible chronological journey. We're going to explore the early milestones, the really profound trials, and the defining moments that shaped Prophet Muhammad ﷺ long before his prophethood even began. We'll be looking at historical accounts to break down exactly how 35 years of profound real-world experiences forged a man uniquely prepared for an ultimate calling. Okay, let's dive right into this timeline. Our story starts in the spring of 571 CE. Now locally, this was famously known as the Year of the Elephant. In April of that year, right in the bustling city of Mecca, Prophet Muhammad was born to his mother Aminah. But, his trials actually began before he even took his first breath because his father, Abdullah, had already passed away. So, upon hearing the joyous but obviously bittersweet news of his birth, his grandfather, the prominent leader Abdul Muttalib, took the infant straight to the Kaaba. He offered prayers of gratitude and proudly named him Muhammad.
Now, as was the custom for city-dwelling Arabs back then, the infant was entrusted to a wet nurse from the desert. This was done so the child would grow strong and learn the really pure Arabic dialect. But the story of his foster mother, Halima Sa'adiyah from the Banu Sa'd tribe, is an incredible study in contrasts. Just picture this. She arrives in Mecca during a brutal drought. She's riding a weak donkey, her camel is completely dry, and their own baby is crying from hunger. It's a desperate situation. She actually hesitated to take Muhammad at first because he was an orphan, and wet nurses usually relied on generous fathers for payment. But unwilling to head back empty-handed, she took him in anyway. And the moment she did, her life completely transformed. It went from pure desperation to miraculous blessing almost instantly. The historical sources detail how her breasts suddenly filled with milk, her dry camel began producing abundantly, and her previously starving sheep came back from grazing totally full and producing milk, while everyone else's flocks were still hungry.
So he stays with Banu Sa'd until a deeply significant event happens when he's about 4 or 5 years old, the splitting of the chest, or Shaq-e-Sadar. Accounts narrate that the angel Jibreel actually approached the young boy, opened his chest, removed a portion representing Satan's influence, and washed his heart in a golden basin with Zamzam water before returning it. Understandably frightened, Halima returned him to his mother, Aminah. But tragically, his time with his mom was cut short. When he was just 6, Aminah took him to Medina to visit his father's grave, and on the journey back, she fell ill and passed away at Abwa. Guardianship then fell to his doting grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, who loved him fiercely. Yet, just 2 years later, when Muhammad was 8, his grandfather also passed away, leaving him in the care of his uncle, Abu Talib. Think about that. He was orphaned twice over by the age of 8. These successive, profound losses are absolutely crucial to understand. They stripped away worldly attachments so early on, placing his ultimate reliance entirely on a higher power.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is a journey he takes at age 12. It's a trip outside the familiar borders of Mecca, and it revealed something truly extraordinary. His uncle, Abu Talib, took him on a trade caravan to Syria. When they stopped in Basra, a Christian monk named Bahira, who usually never ever left his monastery, actually came out to greet them. According to the sources, Bahira had been watching the trees and stones bowing as the caravan approached. He instantly recognized this sign from his own scriptures. After examining the young Muhammad and finding the seal of prophethood right between his shoulders, Bahira spoke a powerful warning. He declared, "This is the master of all humans. Allah will send him as a mercy to the worlds." He then urged Abu Talib to send the boy back to Mecca immediately to protect him from any potential harm.
Fast forward into his teenage years, and the harsh, volatile realities of pre-Islamic Arabia really come knocking. When he was 15, the Battle of Fijar broke out. This wasn't just a skirmish, it was a severe, deeply controversial societal conflict between the Quraysh and Kinana tribes against the Kayth-Yalan. And to make matters worse, it was fought during the sacred months when bloodshed was strictly forbidden. Now, Prophet Muhammad didn't actually engage in the killing. Instead, he played a supportive role, gathering and handing arrows to his uncles. But this early exposure to the devastating consequences of lawlessness and unjust societal violence, it was a crucible. It instilled in him a deep, lifelong detestation for unnecessary bloodshed, a trait that would profoundly define his legendary peacemaking efforts later in his life. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Out of all that chaos came a profound commitment to justice. Shortly after the Battle of Fijar, a foreigner from Yemen came to Mecca to sell goods and was openly, brazenly cheated by a powerful local. The man literally stood on a mountain and cried out for justice. In response to this, several tribal leaders gathered at the house of Abdullah bin Judan and formed Hilf el-Fadul, the Alliance of Virtues. This was a solemn pact to fiercely protect the oppressed and ensure justice for absolutely anyone in Mecca, whether they were a wealthy local or a vulnerable foreigner. Prophet Muhammad participated in this pact and, even years later, praised it highly. The takeaway here is so powerful, it shows us that true leadership means standing up for the marginalized, no matter what their background or tribal affiliation might be. But, amidst all the intense tribal politics and bustling trade, there was also this critical period of quiet reflection. Like so many prophets before him, he spent time tending sheep. He worked as a humble shepherd for the people of Banu Sa'd and the residents of Mecca, and he did it for a meager wage of just a few karats. Out there in the vast, silent landscapes, miles away from the chaotic city life and the idol worship he completely detested, this work was practically a masterclass in character building. Think about it. Tending sheep requires immense patience, empathy, and constant vigilance. Those are the exact foundational skills needed to patiently guide and protect a human community later on. So by the time he reaches the age of 25, a really stark contrast had emerged. In a society that was often plagued by moral decay and pretty ruthless business practices, he was universally celebrated throughout Mecca for his impeccable honesty and his unbreakable integrity. This is what earned him the famous title Al-Amin, the Trustworthy. Naturally, this remarkable reputation caught the attention of someone important, a noble, highly successful, and wealthy businesswoman named Khadija. Recognizing his unparalleled trustworthiness, she actually hired him to manage a major, high-stakes trade caravan on her behalf to Syria. And this business trip, it quickly turned into a foundational life event. Khadija had sent her servant, Seerah, along on the journey. Well, the profits they brought back were unprecedented. But honestly, more importantly, Seerah returned with glowing reports about Muhammad's extraordinary character, how exceptionally fair his dealings were, and his gentle nature. Khadija was deeply impressed, and she did something quite empowering and surprising for that era. Here is a wealthy, elite businesswoman who had previously turned down proposals from powerful chieftains, and she chooses a younger man of modest means simply because of his impeccable character. She sent her friend Nafisa to propose marriage, and he accepted. They were married with a dowry of 20 camels. She was 40, and he was 25. Together they built this beautiful, deeply loving family, blessed with children, Qasim, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, and Abdullah. Let's jump ahead 10 years. He's 35 now, and a massive crisis hits Mecca. The Kaaba, the sacred house originally built by Abraham, was in serious structural decay and had just been severely damaged by a flood. The Quraysh decided they had to rebuild it, but they established a really remarkable, strict rule. They would only use purely halal wealth. Absolutely no money from theft, usury, or oppression could be used, period. Now, the rebuilding went smoothly at first, but when it came time to place the sacred black stone, the Hajar al-Aswad, into the wall, a massive dispute erupted. Every single tribal chief fiercely demanded the exclusive honor of placing the stone. The tension escalated so fast, placing them on the absolute brink of a bloody, devastating war right there in the sacred sanctuary. After days of this incredibly tense standoff, an elder suggested a way out. He said, "Let the first man to enter the gates of the sanctuary decide the outcome." And wouldn't you know it, that man was Muhammad. The relief in the air was palpable. The leaders literally cried out, "It is Al-Amin, we are pleased." Now watch how he solves an unsolvable crisis. He asks for a large cloak, lays it out, and places the black stone right in the center. Then he orders the chief of every competing tribe to grab an edge of the cloak and lift it up together to the height of the wall. Finally, he personally lifts the stone from the cloak and sets it into the masonry. In one stroke of absolute genius, every tribe shared in the honor, innocent blood was spared, and his reputation as a master peacemaker was completely cemented. So, from an orphan shifting between guardians to a shepherd learning immense patience out in the silent desert, from a young man witnessing the horrors of tribal war and joining a noble pact to protect the oppressed, to an incredibly honest merchant and a brilliant peacemaker who literally prevented bloodshed. None of these were just random life events. They were pieces of a giant puzzle. How did 35 years of profound loss, unwavering justice, honest trade, and brilliant peacemaking perfectly forge the character of a man destined to change the world? It's a question that leaves us deeply intrigued about the monumental, world-shifting events of prophethood that were standing right around the corner.